Hello, this is me. I wanted to make this episode a bit of a solo project today. I've done a few episodes with good friends, good people, and I wanted to reflect on the things I've learned from our conversations, as well as state for the record and for all of you why it is I'm doing this in the first place. I've thought about this quite a bit, and I prepared some notes, some prompts. One excerpt is from a reading from Jordan Peterson's 12 Rules of Life. Came across this recently as skimming through the book, and he described it quite well. But I came to my own conclusions beforehand, and I wanted to elaborate on that quite a bit. So, to start, perhaps I wanted to recount how I got into music, what it is comes to mind of what's meaningful, kind of paint the picture of how we got here. And then I want to share the excerpt um, from that book about conversations and the meaningfulness behind it. And I also wanted to share an excerpt from my letter of intent for when I applied to University of Toronto for my Master's of Music Education, which I'll be attending come September of this year. So, without further ado, I'll start off with this first segment and perhaps walk through a few elements of my musical, academic, and growth journey in becoming the young man I am today, as to why I see meaning and value in having these conversations and sharing it with the internet and the world and with you. So, I found music for the deep desire to express myself. This came at stark contrast, where my words were only hitting brick walls with those around me in my youth. Because of that, my thoughts were as shaky as my feet as I walked through the early stages of my life. The only thing that seemed to ring true and clear was the music I listened to and eventually connected to by playing it and learning how to play it. In that process, I made a lot of connections to the people I met along the way. The music department at my high school was quite extraordinary. And in those environments where music happened to be, I gained a sense of clarity that I couldn't find elsewhere. And I thought with my curious mind that there must be something here. There must be something behind all of this. I'd always been a curious young lad, always wondered what the world is, how it works, and why. And, well, when it came to music, I was always stumped. With everything else, I could understand a little bit. I can get a clue, I could put two and two together, and gain enough clarity in other disciplines, enough for me to satisfy my curiosity to move on with some confidence, with some clarity as I reach out into the world. But music always stumped me. Could never figure out why it does the beautiful things it does for all of us. And one correlation was the people I met along the way, where why is it that wherever music goes, good people are the people I find? And it's been quite the wonderful journey to throw myself, to be invited into environments, to earn my place in the room where other musicians are as well. And I've been very grateful for all those opportunities, primarily through school, but definitely out there in the venues and on the street, and sheer luck and coincidence for strangers that are now friends, that these people are people I also find clarity with in more than one ways. When I think about music, one line from a Kendrick Lamar song comes to mind, the song Purple Hearts. I'm not in the music business, I've been in the human business. When I first heard that record, Mr. Morale and this song in particular, That line always piqued my interest. At that point, I think I've graduated Humber, if I'm correct. I've done some playing, I've done some growing, trying to stand on my own 2 feet. And I thought, yeah, I think he's onto something. This really is the human business. And I think that's much bigger than just music, if I'm daring to say that. So when I started thinking about that, I realized what I've been chasing is the world within all of us. Because through my education and through my early stages of my musical exploration, I was able to recognize a world within a song, a universe within an instrument. But each of us live our own lives. Each of us have our story to tell. Um, each of us sees the world in a particular way, and that it can't be anything but beautiful if we are able to connect and share uh, what it is we see. Um, and one way I found of doing that, one way I found of, um, one way I've stumbled across of exploring the world of other people is by sitting down and having a nice chat. I've always been curious, never quite the most disciplined student, but in class I'll definitely be listening if there's something worth listening to, and most of the time there was. Sometimes there wasn't. And so I knew I was willing to listen. I knew I was interested to listen. It wasn't until I started practicing music or began to seriously consider practicing music prior to my start at Humber where I came upon the conclusion that all I can do is listen. There's a poem I have of that. Give me a moment, let me pull that up. I have the poem here. This poem is called or titled Listening. This was the summer before I started Humber, the summer after I finished my 1 year at York University, which was right after high school. I am a musician. I don't dance. I try to sing and I hope to listen. I am a musician. I don't fast. I don't pray. I follow intuition. I am a musician. I don't dance. I try to sing and I hope to listen. I'm somebody who doesn't know, who doesn't feel, who doesn't show. I'm somebody living here in the light and underglow. I hope to inspire. I hope to show that this world is something beautiful. But please let me know if I bore you, if I annoy you, if my poetry is something lacking, if you think I should go home, start packing, if my hair is out of place, if my shoes have gone its pace, if my face is something gruesome, I worry about chewed gum, underneath the tables where countless people have ate, that their nights and their days may or may not have left a good taste. I worry a lot about this world. I worry a lot about my mom. I worry a lot about my friends, and I worry a lot about the lot. Sometimes I can't breathe. Sometimes it's hard to see. Sometimes I pass out. Sometimes it's all fall out. I fall out underneath my own skin. I seem to crawl out from garbage bins. I hear the screams and I hear the cries, but I only wish to see your eyes. I am deathly alone. I feel bare to the bone. I feel lost without a home. But all I can do is listen. All I can do is listen. Between all the mess, this anxiety depressed, you are the one. Music, my guest. When things fall in place, everything seems okay. When you are around, music, my guest. This is a song just about all of this. Me treating my guest with love and respect. Anyways, anywhere I go, anywhere you go, I'll be here. I call you home. Anywhere you go, anywhere I go, I will be here. I call you home. That is a poem titled Listening, and a bit of the song that it leads into called Anyways. At this moment in time, I had come to the conclusion that what I follow is the spirit of music, but the best way, the only way to truly connect with that is to listen. And so, as I have these conversations with my guests, I aim to listen. I aim to see them in their truest light. I aim to ask questions and learn about them. Each move that I've gone through at different stages of my life, whether moving into a new place, a new apartment, I seem to carry more things, ideas, wishes, hopes, and dreams of the people who have touched my life. It builds me up as much as each ending of chapters has broken me down. I invite my guests into my home, for I welcome their presence as they have mine, a signifier of trust and the opportunity for truly seeing who we are. So, there's a little bit about me, a little bit about my background, where I come from and how I see music, a little bit about what value I see in listening. Now I would like to recite an excerpt from 12 Rules for Life by Jordan Peterson. There's a chapter about different types of conversations. He also had a segment on listening. This segment was the final segment in the chapter about conversations. And when I went through this, I thought, oh, my goodness, this guy's got something going on. He describes the more academic, the clearer sense of the value, the purpose, and the necessity of truly open and honest conversations. So this is not the whole segment. Oh, this is an excerpt. Here we go. The final type of conversation, akin to listening, is a form of mutual exploration. It requires true reciprocity on the part of those listening and speaking. It allows all participants to express and organize their thoughts. A conversation of mutual exploration has topic, generally complex, of genuine interest to the participants. Everyone participating is trying to solve a problem, instead of insisting on the a priori validity of their own positions. All are acting on the premise that they have something to learn. This kind of conversation constitutes active philosophy, the highest form of thought, and the best preparation for proper living. It's as if you are listening to yourself during such a conversation, just as you are listening to the other person. You are describing how you are responding to the new information imparted by the speaker. You are reporting what the information has done to you, what new things it made appear within you, how it has changed your presuppositions, how it has made you think of new questions. You tell the speaker these things directly. Then they have the same effect on them. In this manner, you both move towards somewhere newer and broader and better. You both change as you let your old presuppositions die, as you shed your skins and emerge renewed. A conversation such as this is one where it is the desire for truth itself on the part of both participants that is truly listening and speaking. That's why it's engaging, vital, interesting, and meaningful. That sense of meaning is a signal from the deep, ancient parts of your being. You're where you should be, with one foot in order and the other tentatively extended into chaos and the unknown. You're immersed in the Tao, following the great way of life. There, you're stable enough to be secure, but flexible enough to transform. There, you're allowing new information to inform you, to permeate your stability, to repair and improve its structure and expand its domain. There, the constituent elements of your being can find their more elegant formation. A conversation like that places you in the same place that listening to great music places you. And for much the same reason, a conversation like that puts you in the realm where souls connect, and that's a real place. It leaves you thinking, that was really worthwhile. We really got to know each other. The masks come off, and the searchers were revealed. So listen to yourself and to those with whom you're speaking. Your wisdom then consists not of the knowledge you already have, but the continual search for knowledge, which is the highest form of wisdom. It is for this reason that the priestess of the Delphic oracle in ancient Greece spoke most highly of Socrates, who always sought the truth. She described him as the wisest living man because he knew that what he knew was nothing. Assume that the person you're listening to might know something you don't. All right? That was the excerpt from the book 12 Rules of Life, or For Life, by Jordan B. Peterson. I read this recently, maybe only a couple of weeks ago. However, the next excerpt I want to read to you is my letter of intent, which I wrote a few months ago. And I came to my own conclusions about learning, about growth. My friends would always, or whenever I talk to my friends about, asking the question, what would you do if you won the lottery? We all entertain those questions from time to time. I was always happy with my answer being, I would simply go to school, get as many degrees as I can, learn as much as I can, and relax, sleep on time, take it all in. That's the dream, because the continual pursuit of the truth is what I think I find most meaningful. And there's so much to be revealed in the beauty of art, especially music, which I'm quite fond of. And there's so much to be revealed by the people who live the life I'm most curious about, which is in all of us. The lives that have once lived, that are now past, the lives we share today, and the potential for, what's the word? What's the Jesus guy say? He said, go forth and multiply. The kids of the future, the lives they'll live. Think about that as well. So with that, here's my excerpt from my letter of intent that I'd like to draw some significance from. I was always told that I was too young to understand. I have lived long enough to understand only a couple of things. That the only thing I know is I know nothing at all. That to live is to know that I will die. For that, I need to learn more, and for that, I have an idea of what it is I would die for. From what I've read, it seems there are so many questions left unanswered about how music affects the mind, body, and soul, how music can heal, how we learn, how our neurology dances with music, how damaged memories come to life with the right music, how the notion of harmony can be applied across disciplines, why music exists, and why it is that we can't seem to exist without it. I intend to do my due diligence to become a disciplined expert in this field, learning the skills to conduct effective research, apply the best practices in the classroom, and communicate boundless ideas. To participate in the conversations that propel our understanding forward. ultimately, to devote my life to the study of education and the music. Through learning and teaching music, I have been able to transform my life. Despite my parents' skepticism on choosing to walk down this path, I believe there could be nothing more fitting in terms of respecting their efforts in providing me with the opportunities that they never had. In addition, honoring those that have guided me to where I stand or sit today. For as an educator, I could become the very person who provides those opportunities to others for years to come. When I wrote this, I was honest. It happened quickly with some editing. But I thought to myself, what is my intention? And my intention can only be as clear as the truth can be. And for that, I stand by what I said, that the only thing I know is I know nothing at all. And that to live is to know that I will die. When I sit down and have a conversation with some of my guests, or with anybody in my life in that matter, but especially here, I ask questions ready to have my entire perception of my world shattered. It hasn't quite happened yet, and I think that's on me. I haven't been asking good enough questions. In doing so, however, I'm practicing. I'm learning how to do so on the fly. Sometimes with preparation, some more than others. But I truly appreciate the opportunities to take a glimpse into the world of others. And the, the way I do that is by asking questions, having a conversation, trying to flesh some things out. And I'm hoping to continue to do so. In spirit of the conversations that have taken place on this couch in this living room thus far, I wanted to share a few recollections or significance of my guests that have come onto the show. Each and every one of them I appreciate deeply. I'm happy to call many of them my friends. In fact, all of them my friends. Some new, some old. Some I thought I knew ever since I met them. And they've all imparted with me some lessons learned or perspective about who they are and who they could be, and an opportunity to reflect on who I am and who I could be, what I know and what I don't know, and what I would like to know. So my first, most brave and willing participant, one who is extremely bright, always thinking, always trying to build a better vision of the world he lives in, Alex Fraga. Here's what I wrote about Alex. He shared with me his perspective on music, that music is connection. I was inspired to pursue music because I felt connected to the cast, crew, and directors of a musical I was a part of in high school. The musical was Nice Work If You Can Get It. This endeavor changed my life as I moved into post-secondary. For at York University, I gained the sense of connection, of a growing community that is global, not just my town and my high school, not just in my neighborhood and my elementary school, but the world was beginning to rear its head. With my world expanding, I aim to be a stronger member within it. When Alex pointed out that music is simply connection, it's a bit of an aha moment. in my brain, and quite fitting for my first guest, my first guest. With that spirit, I thought, well, I'm just trying to connect with these people to some degree. It felt very encouraging to continue having these conversations and to explore these ideas further. For at Humber College, I was surrounded by like minded individuals. Amazing, hardworking, talented individuals who loved music, who connected with this art form so deeply in so many different ways. In reflection, I was so caught up, perhaps distracted, in all the new ways I could potentially be connected with my peers and the multitude of streams of this craft. I was never the most disciplined guitarist. I explored greatly in a lot of different directions. I still am, which is part of the reason why I enjoy doing this podcast. Set up some cameras, you edit them. I love tinkering behind the scenes, mixing and editing, click, click, clicks. It's just another way to connect. It's another way to share and express. It's another way to document and review. There are a multitude of similarities between a conversation and playing or learning music. And Alex definitely shared that perspective with me and with everybody on the internet in his own way. My second guest, Dwit Hathi. He's been along for this ride for some time. He's a dear friend and is a man who has grown immensely since the day I first met him. I have always admired his connection with his instrument and his music. He's always been my first call guitarist, even though I am one myself. His vision of this art form is like none other, and there are times that I know I can't connect to elements of his mind, but I know I am also at ease, knowing that the world that he sees is in good hands. Dwit is a creative mastermind. I've worked with him in a variety of multitude of capacities. Ah, variety, multitude. These words are rambling off. Um, there's one moment that I always share with him and others. Um, During COVID, I had abandoned my garage that I tried to turn into a little studio. We were working on a new song of the songwriter, and he was just so assertive, clear, and directive with a new vision of the song. He put his producer hat on, and the song transformed. We all took his direction. And I remember watching him and seeing him and experiencing being in that band. Um, he's often quite reserved, maybe timid, perhaps. But in that moment, he said something with a lot of weight behind it, and I knew I had to listen. It wasn't a question of doubting what he is saying or why he is talking, for example. It was simply he said something so clearly with such conviction, you couldn't help but to listen, to understand, and to follow. And the song is fantastic. Um, he he showed a side of him that I hadn't seen until that day. And every time I get to see that side of him, that little producer brain of his, it's so exciting because he sees things like none other. That's for sure. And I think a lot of that comes from his years of discipline, of commitment to his instrument and to the music he creates. He listens deeply and he cares deeply about the music he creates. And having a friend like that around is as intimidating as much as it is inspiring. It's intimidating because I know he would take over the musical world in a heartbeat. Well, he's well on his way to do so. And it's inspiring because I see that as a possibility. I mean, it's happening every day. There's many great individuals in the industry making things, creating things, sharing things. But to call him my friend is quite the honor. Quite the stand-up guy. And it's been a pleasure to see him grow and expand. into who he is today. And yeah, yeah, his connection to music and his instrument is quite profound. My guest after Dwit was a new friend of mine, Kimberly Brathwaite, a new entry to my musical world. She is devastatingly passionate, creative individual. She can envision worlds beyond your imagination. Her connection to music reaches high and far. She had revealed to me the whimsical, innocent gift of creativity that at times I seem to forget. There's times in our conversation, not just the one online, but offline as well, where it seems that she departs from our conversation and goes off into uncharted territory. And you can just get the sense that there's a whole world of music, of vision happening all the time. I've met only a few individuals as Kimberly, creative geniuses, but I believe it's much of a gift as it is a curse, because a lot of it's yet to become. The the dam has yet to be released. The capital has yet to be stormed. I'm just kidding. There's a huge potential of creativity, of creative energy behind her, and I really feel that talking to her. And the act of conversation with Kimberly in particular is a creative challenge, because I want to know what's happening up there, but I can't hear if she can. And so it's quite the journey to have an open and honest conversation with Kimberly, because I can feel that creative energy just emanating from her brain at times. So it's always a joy to talk to her about things, about music, about life, um, and good desserts at I believe at Moxie's apparently. My next guest, Jesse Lang, is a short man but stands tall. His convictions are clear. He emphasized the importance of intent. I met Jesse at the tail end of a devastating relationship. Riddled with insecurities and doubt, Jesse always seemed to be put together. Seeing him in action taught me many things. He cares deeply and focused on growing roots, and he knows the patience and endurance that requires. I have been conscious to be more intentional, to reflect on the roots I am trying to grow, and understand what is required to nurture them correctly, thanks to him. My friend is getting married soon. He's my band leader for our band Full Deck. And working with Jesse has been eye-opening in many ways. The conversations he has with himself are plentiful, but only a few are shared with his peers. The conversations that seem to be happening inside of him are planning, are delegation, are prioritizing. It's all in efforts to see his vision through. And with a vision, with the potential, how do I say this? With his clarifying vision, how do I know? How do I say this? Give me a second here. I can sense that he is always clarifying his vision. And what he presents to his peers, his bandmates, family, his friends, is always the trying to be the most clear, up to date version of that. And often it's so clear um, that it's easy. It's easy for others to work with him in that way. He makes it easy for us to be our best. In my intention as being one of the band members, a working musician, a guitar player, bass player, is to play the best I can, to be a strong member of the team, to contribute, um, to not only realize my potential, but help in the way I can to realize the collective potential of our efforts. And him being very intentional at every step of the way, long term thinking, big goals, grounded, very realistic goals, has been quite the outlet for me, who seems to scatter quite often. Um, so it's been quite the pleasure to work with Jesse and to have had an opportunity to share, for him to share some of his thoughts in that conversation. That episode we did at his home, in his living room. And it was quite nice because usually I try, when I invite guests into my home, um, maybe after our podcast, I try to share a meal. I try to cook something for them if we have the time uh, and the opportunity. But in this case, they invited me over for dinner, him and his partner. And that was quite the, I appreciated that meal greatly. Good food, good conversations is something I've heard. And it was quite true with him. My next guest after Jesse, Robert Lee. Mm. He is someone I admired deeply since I met him. He has always been kind and welcoming. I could never shake the feeling, even when I first met him, that somehow we knew each other. His heart is probably as big as his bass, and his music resounds even larger. He embodies the dedicated musician that I've always dreamed of being myself, yet I always seem to fall short. His commitment to his craft serves as a century-old reminder that you can do anything you set your mind to. You just need to put in the work, and work is what he does. Robert has welcomed me into his home, introduced me to his friends with open arms. I've never been so warmly welcomed by such a cold, deadly, and heavy musician as him. Our conversation keeps reminding me of balance. Robert is this fluffy, warm teddy bear and ball of anxiety all at once. And my heart always feels, I try to be nurturing towards him. There's a side I see in Robert that I'm not sure if this is the right way to say it, but there's a side of Robert that you just can't help but love. And I think that's because he does what he does deeply. He works on what he works on deeply. And you can hear that and see that in the way he operates, the things he says, the music he plays, what he shares with people. And you can definitely hear that in our conversation. He cares about what he does. He cares about where he comes from. He puts the time, effort, and work into it. And he tries to take care of his people as much as his people take care of him, if not more. So Robert is quite the gem, and I'm very grateful to call him a friend. And I met him during my time at Humber. He's a couple years older, and seeing him venture off into the musical world, we're all still figuring out why I was there in the first place, felt grounding. Sitting down and having a conversation with Robert, I felt as though I have arrived somewhere and I am on the right track. Because if Robert still wants to talk to me, then I think I'm doing something right. definitely, definitely go listen to his new record. It's amazing. So that's Robert Lee. Moving on to our latest guest and the last one of our recap for this episode. Kevin Terry. The fundamentally contradictory young man. Oh, sorry. The most fundamentally contradictory young man you will ever meet. A creative force to be reckoned with. The way he lays out his ideas showcases his inquisitive nature. Behind the scenes, he is ruthlessly serious at uncovering the why and how. I appreciate his dedication to his work and commitment to growth. I only wish he would entertain me with more conversations about balance. A colleague of mine who always tries to cheer on those around him despite his own turmoil. Kevin Terry feels the burden of philosophy, that's for sure. His philosophical views target the contradictions that we often face. We're about the same age. We got hired at one of the schools we teach at around the same time. And that's as close, as common as we are. I think we're worlds apart musically, but we both very much appreciate what we do and how we do it. And I think that's been a focus of my conversations with Kevin, or my interest with Kevin in general. Why he does the things he does and how he does it. Who am I to say how well he does things? I'm not his student. He's a teacher at the school. Nor am I his patient. But I have listened to his music and I've thoroughly enjoyed it. He has melodies that he holds very near and dear to his heart, and he sings them as such. I see him as a songwriter first, philosopher second, and then all of the multitude of jobs that he has last, which are a lot. From the songwriter point of view, it's always a refreshing take. To sing a song is to just be honest as well. You know, it's quite the conversation you have, but you have it in the most organic way, I think. Perhaps comparing that to instrumental music or some jazz improvisation, for example. So his music is a good reminder and a refreshing flavor of what songwriter music can be or would be. And you can definitely feel his turmoil as he presents himself as time goes on. So Kevin Terry is definitely an interesting fellow. He's quite the comedian as well, and it's a pleasure to work with him, as he always tries to cheer each other on. So reflecting on these guests, I share my gratitudes towards each and every one of them, and everyone else to come. Having a conversation with somebody, I find, has been the best way to learn. There's nothing more clear than that. I continue wanting to have these conversations because I hope that we can all, me, my guest, and you, the audience, can see value and meaning in the act, in the content, in the words, and how these ideas permeate and develop over time. As I reflect on these guests, these conversations have settled to some degree. They've definitely been repeated because I have to edit these videos, and the editing process is about 3 times as long as the episode itself, at the quickest. So I hear the words on repeat quite often, and I keep on learning. I keep on learning every single time, and for that I'm very grateful. Um, I hope these conversations serve as documentation, as a moment in time, as um, a statement to the world that we were here, we were alive, we had something to say, and we did so in our best attempt to be honest, and to speak our truth, and to be forthright, 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 with each other and with what you see on your little YouTube screen. So yeah, in the future, I would like to do another recap video as time goes on, to perhaps more concisely in the next one present a presentation of my guests, um, and to summarize perhaps my key findings, what I find most meaningful through our conversations. Um, as time goes on, as I develop as an educator and as a musician, there will be conversations I would like to have with colleagues, with people in the field, to tackle specific problems, specific ideas, because there's definitely something to be said about the utility of having a conversation, rather than maybe in contrast to slaving away behind a word processor and fleshing out an essay. Now there is a lot of utility in that, that's for sure. A lot of clarity in that as well. But there's something I quite enjoy about simply having a conversation and fleshing things out. So I hope to do that in the future. And I hope to showcase the music of my guests, and if not music, other talents, other conversation adjacent endeavors. Um, there are many things about people's lives that are worth the showcase, that are worth the spotlight. And that is what I aim to do on this podcast, to display these wonderful people that I've met along the way in the best possible light, for all of you to see. Perhaps it's their introduction to the world in one way or another. Perhaps my take on the introduction of them to the world. And so I would like to do that, and continue to do so, um, and do so respectfully and effectively. So thank you for sitting with me and enjoying this evening of reflection and me talking to myself on the camera. It's been a pleasure. Many more to come. Cheers.